I want to talk today about slut shaming and why you shouldn't do it. People who slut shame do it under the guise of being concerned about your safety. They say that it's dangerous, that you can get pregnant, you can get STDs. And while you can get those things, it's actually counterproductive to the safety of people who are choosing to have sex to slut shame them. Someone who's made to feel ashamed for being a slut or for having sex is going to avoid going to the store and buying condoms because they're going to feel like they're going to be judged at the counter or judged by the person for bringing condoms, like what slut carries around condoms. Um, they're not going to ask their parents or teachers or people who are experienced for information on how to protect themselves. They're not going to go to a clinic and get an STD test or a pregnancy test until it's too late. They're not going to be able to then tell their partner that they're infected with something, and then they're just going to keep spreading it. It's going to cause people who are sexually assaulted to not come forward with that information because they aren't going to want people to know their history. Oftentimes, people who are assaulted, their history gets put up on the stand and as evidence because people want to use the fact that they consider them a slut as evidence against them, saying, this person wanted it. Look, this person slept with everybody. That's happened so many times that there's a law against it at this point. They don't want their families to know, or their friends or their colleagues. They don't want to be embarrassed up on the stand. And the reality is there's really nothing to be embarrassed about. It's the most natural thing in the world. Everybody does it. Animals do it. It's not this shameful, dirty thing that society likes to make it out to be. Whether or not you choose to share it with a lot of people or just a few people or nobody is really your own personal choice and what you're comfortable with. But to tell somebody else that their choice that differs from your choice is wrong or shameful or dirty, it's judgmental, and it really leads them to make dangerous, uneducated, uninformed choices. People who are comfortable with their sexuality tend to speak with their parents about it. They tend to speak with their partners about it. They tend to go over protection, and they're not afraid to tell their partner, I want you to use a condom. These are all things that people who aren't comfortable with what they're doing but are doing it because it's that natural urge, these are things that they don't do or are less likely to do, which just makes the spread of STDs and pregnancy worse. I can't reiterate enough that shaming someone does not make them not have sex. It just makes them practice it in an unhealthy way. There's also the problem of needing liquid courage to participate in sex. For a lot of people who are ashamed about it, they'll want to hook up with somebody at a party or something like that, and so they'll drink heavily. And when you drink, you're more prone to mistakes, which means maybe you didn't use the condom right. Maybe you screwed up on your birth control. There are all sorts of things that happen when you're drunk that are going to lead to less safe sex. And it's also an issue where the person might wind up accidentally getting so drunk that someone comes and takes advantage of them. That's not their fault, but that's just an unintended consequence of getting drunk for that liquid courage. When you're not shamed about things like that, you're not inclined to get drunk to participate in them, and then you can make clear-headed judgments about it, and you can decide whether or not it's really right for you. You can then take the steps you need to take so that when you do experience it, it's as safe as it can possibly be. There's no such thing as absolutely safe sex. Even when you're in a monogamous relationship, it can still be unsafe. Someone can have something that they're not aware of. So there's this delusion that the more partners you have, the less safe you are. The reality is you can have sex with one person and get pregnant, an STD, all sorts of things that you could get when someone who slept with 40 people doesn't happen to. It's really kind of about what steps you take and As long as you're being as safe as possible and as honest as possible and making sure you go get regularly tested, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I just think it's important to counteract this sex negative mentality that so many people have, that so many people use to hurt other people and to keep people in the dark and to try to control people. People who get on other people's cases about being sluts are really just trying to control their behavior. They're unhappy in their own life and they think that they need to attack another person, maybe because they want to be having more sex and they're not. Maybe they're in an unhappy relationship and they wish they were out, partying with other people. Or, maybe it's some other underlying issue that they see, oh, I can easily attack that person because that person's a slut. And what you need to remember is slut is a subjective term. Kids get called sluts, like a teenager in high school will get called a slut for sleeping with one guy. Other people can have sex with 100 people and nobody says anything. It's really it's an individual judgment that is so subjective that using it is just ignorant. It's hateful, it's hurtful, and it perpetuates negative behavior. I just want to encourage people who have this really negative opinion, who think it's okay to call people sluts. I just want them to rethink how they've been treating people and how they perceive people. And don't let simple people with simple minds and no education and no empathy, no real life experience tell you how you should feel. Don't let wannabe dictators dictate your actions. Think about what's comfortable for you and base your decisions off your own body, off how that person makes you feel, about whether or not they're respectful towards you. And make decisions with your head. Bring condoms, use birth control, do the things that you need to do in order to protect yourself the best you can. And if you're not ready, it's okay to wait. Don't base your decision off what your friends are doing or make it like a race. It's about what you want to do and what you're comfortable with overall. And just like you want to be respected for your choices, respect other people's choices. Don't call them a slut. Don't call them a prude. Don't pressure them into doing something they don't want to do. Allow everybody to make decisions on their own. And I think you'll find if you have a more positive outlook, you'll have healthier relationships. You'll take better care of yourself. And if everybody starts changing their opinions on what a slut is, I think we can have a safer and healthier society overall.